Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out GitGUDRacing.com, where I'm offering the most accessible coaching sessions on the market.
Now for the track guide. For turn 1 you want to be really close to this wall, almost kissing it with the left tires, and in terms of braking I'm using the 400 and 300 markers as a reference. I will brake in between them, so I'm looking at both of them. The moment that I'm passing the 400 I'm preparing to brake, but I look at the 300 because I don't want to brake too close to the 300, so it's almost in between. So you see it's very close to 300, but in my mind it's always in between, because you don't want to make the mistake of braking super late into these corners, because you will cook the tires, you will increase the temps, you will have less cornering grip, but also you will probably understeer a bit into the corner. So brake a bit earlier than you think, not picking very high, but it's still a heavy braking zone. You should hear the tires on the initial braking, you should hear the tires a bit screeching, just a bit, but then you're gonna release it quickly. And what I'm looking at is this curb right here. I want to apex so close to this part of the curve when the height is increasing. So I don't want to cut it at the white line, I want to cut a bit of it, but as this curve is, if you're gonna cut it on the top, then the car will bounce a bit, the suspension won't be dealing too well with this curve. So you don't want to cut here a lot, because you will lose the grip, because you will basically be on two tires, and then whenever you're turning you won't have enough grip. So cut less than you think, but still cut around here. So I'm touching it at this point, but I'm not going completely over it. That's the important thing. And the moment that you are at the curb, you should be back on throttle. So at this point, maybe it was 2 frames a bit later, but in your mind, whenever you're hitting that curb, back on throttle to make the car rotate and carry the speed. And you don't want to track out wide to this part of the track. I tried this line and for me it didn't work well, because you will have then to bring the car to the center to reposition for the next one, and the trade-off is not really enough. So don't go past the white line here, and then I'm putting back the throttle to 100%. I'm using this 100% throttle as a reference for me, because I want to hit it 100%, hold it just a bit, and then drop it while turning and adding just a bit of trail brake, because I want to go around and use this curve to the grass. So cut as much as you can here with the trail brake. Now back on throttle. You shouldn't be worried about pushing the car wider in this part of the track, because the next corner is very long and you will basically go straight from this point. So don't worry about the car getting pushed too far on the right. That's okay, because you want that turn in to be at the grass in this point. And again, like previous corner, I'm going straight at this point, and I want to push the car as deep as I can, because this is a long corner. As you can see, it's longer than you think. If we would have put a chopper camera, you would see that its radius, it's huge. So you don't want to brake early for this, and you want to use all the track. So my approach here is more like a V-shaped line. I don't want to be very tight on this curve and follow it closely, because you will have to delay your throttle application. And instead, even though I will travel a longer distance by going to this part of the track, to this curve, I will be earlier on throttle, and also I'm gonna gain time on entry because I just carried more speed rather than braking and following the shorter line. So push the car deep, push it to the maximum, to this curve right here. Let's go again. So from this point, you just keep the throttle on, keep the throttle on. Whenever I'm seeing this part of the curve, whenever I'm seeing the curve in my sights, like starting to appear on the horizon line, then I'm applying the brakes. But I'm applying the brakes whenever I already turned a bit. So I won't be braking, I won't be spending a lot of time braking and turning at the same time. Because if I would have applied the brakes just a bit earlier, around here, I would have to still turn more and still be on the brakes. So I'm minimizing the time in which I'm on brakes, but also turning. So braking as late as I can whenever the car is already turned a bit more, then staying a bit on the trail brake and using all the track, aligning this left tire with the grass, not with the curb, so you can use everything. And then from this angle, it's gonna be a lot easier to take this corner. A bit of hesitation here on throttle, so avoid that, but then putting the power down. And what I found is that if you will push the car to the grass here, to this part, you will lose time on the straight. It's a huge straight coming up, so you have to prepare it to some degree. Even though the next corner, the next two corners, the mini chicane, let's call it, you don't have to brake, but it's still like a mini chicane. It's easy, but you have to prepare it a bit. So if your cars get pushed here to the grass, you will have a bad time on the straight, that's for sure. So what I'm aiming is to have the car past this crack in the tarmac. This crack here, I want to have my car to the left side of it, but still basically aligning the car with this white line from the curb and this crack right here. This is gonna be the position. So I'm whenever I'm straightening the car, I have it at the white line, but I'm not using the curb. I think that's gonna be the easiest way to explain it. And now I want to bring the car just over closely, more closely over this crack in the tarmac, but not going past it, because this chicane right here, the goal is to almost take it straight, almost keep the car straight, less steering. So for me it's like this. So the goal here is to steer less, like imagining you're going in a straight line. You don't want to do S's with the car, so you will scrub speed, you will use more the front tires, you will travel a longer distance. You want to go as straight as possible. The faster way for 2 points is a straight line. So this is the goal, and to achieve it you have to prepare it with this positioning that starts from here now to here, and nowwards you just want to cut as much as you can this curb to the grass. And for this one you want to still cut it, so still go over it. The difference between this and turn one is the fact that right now your steering wheel will be a lot more straight and you're already at 100% throttle, you don't have to trail brake. So in turn one we didn't use the curb because the grip was used for something else, if that makes sense. But here, since the grip levels are a lot higher, then we can go over this curb, and we also have this space right here, which is not gonna be an off track. Now moving into the next corner, I'm using as a reference for braking the 300 meters board. So at the 300 I will apply the brakes. So whenever I'm at the 300, now I'm applying the brakes using all the track here, but don't brake on this curb. You can brake on the white line, but this curb has some changes in height. It's like this in waves, and the tire will go up and down, up and down, up and down, and whenever you're braking, the tire is not making contact at all times with the tarmac, and the braking performance will be affected if you're gonna brake on this curb. So brake nice and steady on the white line here on the tarmac, not on the curb. Don't brake that hard, but it's important here to not cook the entry. You don't want to be pushed super deep to the grass. So I'm apexing around the white line. You can use a bit more of the curb. It's similar like turn one. You can cut just a bit more on this part here where the height is not that big. And now putting the power down immediately, notice that I'm not pushed to the grass. This is important. And now this section reminds me of the previous one with the mini chicane, because the goal will be to do the least amount of steering by positioning the car from this part and by cutting a lot of curves to the grass basically and trailing. So right now I'm more in the center, I'm turning with 100% throttle, then keep holding 100%. I will do a small lift at this curve just to make the front tires point and be able to cut to this grass, then back on throttle and what I imagine here is again that I take a straight line between these two corners, this and the next one. I don't want to be making S's with the car, I just want to go as straight as possible. So doing the lift initially, now back on throttle, now trying to cut again, but this time with a bit of brake, because the next corner is important. You want to have the car more on the left on the exit of this, so I have to use a bit of brake. And I think that I was a bit too early on throttle. I would have liked to have the car even a bit more on the left, because right now for this one you will have to trail brake and turn, and the grip levels are changing on entry, even though the main problem here with the grip levels is that whenever you're going on this curve, the car bounces a bit and it loses the grip, and the car will tend to understeer in this part of the track. It will tend to oversteer, but also understeer. It will oversteer whenever you're gaining back the grip on the tires, because the grip levels will be different, but then on the exit here it will tend to understeer. So prepare it more, use more of the track, be more on the left side so you can turn it more to get the rotation earlier, so that whenever you're cutting this curb you don't have to ask for a lot of steering angle. That will make the oversteering part less obvious, and also you will get a better exit. So I think this corner was not ideal. Now for the next one, the chicane, the braking here, I'm using the 300 board again as a reference. Whenever I'm at the 300 I'm applying the brakes, but it's important to make sure you're on the wall while braking, because you want to have the car pointed a bit more to the center, because if you're gonna brake while pointing to the left, like it's right now, pointing left and then turn right, you will cover a longer distance with the steering wheel. So really you want to avoid that. Close to the wall, braking hard, use a bit of this curb. I had a small lock up here, but use a bit of this curb. Don't use too much. If you go over it, it's the same discussion as in turn one. I think it's not gonna be efficient. Putting down the power, don't get pushed too far on the left, because right now all these corners from this section you really want to prepare them, all of them. Maybe not the last one, yeah, but besides the last one, every corner you have to properly prepare it, because if you're gonna have a shallow entry, a more narrower entry, then you're gonna lose time. So being in the center of the track, bringing it more to the white line. It's impossible to put it on the white line, but bring it as closely as you can. Then doing the trail brake while turning, cutting here to the grass, now pushing the throttle, and right here it's okay to be on the grass, because you have a lot of time being flat out to turn the car. And in short, that's a track guide of Indianapolis with F3. I hope you have a great week ahead, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.